Ooh, did you let out Iris?
No.
Basement.
I'd been feeling uneasy with Dr. Dekker for some time. I mentioned how he'd changed before, so I began spying on him at home. One night, the basement door was open, and Dekker was returning upstairs. I skipped past him, and there she was, a girl. It was difficult to tell, it was dark, and she was chained.
Well, this is interesting. So Bryce and Claire's storylines are not only just they're not only overlapping once, but multiple times apparently, and I don't think even Bryce even understands how. But on top of Bryce apparently smuggling Claire's husband's body out of the funeral, he also freed the very real captive that Dekker was apparently keeping in the basement, which was the lover of the person that he smuggled out. So he smuggled out. So, of the pairing that is Iris and David, he actually smuggled both of them out of a form of captivity. Go figure.
Is that supposed to mean?
Chained in the... Girl chained in the basement.
I removed the chains, dressed her, and sat her in the police station. There's no evidence, though. No evidence of what he'd done. But she was free. I saved her. I'm not evil. I destroyed evil.
Okay, that was the one time you didn't take pictures, was one that you could have made evidence for the police. Interesting. Questionable decision. How does the camera work if time is stopped? Did he explain that time is stopped to a crawl as opposed to stopped entirely? Because that might be it. Because time would have to move for light to transmit for a photograph. It has to be received into the shutter. I wonder how slow it is, though. Like, shutters are designed to operate at a very specific speed. So how does the shutter... How would that work? The shutters are supposed to open for an exact amount of speed in the aperture or whatever, so that it can expose itself to a certain amount of light, so then can develop a photograph. And so in order for that to happen, it has to be at a specific interval, but then you're in a fast-forward land, and apparently you're in fast-forward, so, like, either the shutter is moving at your speed, in which case it won't accept enough light, probably, in order to take the photo correctly, or it's moving at normal speed, in which case you only can take one photo per midnight hour, because you'd have to, like, leave the camera sitting perfectly still, and then time would have to pass before it would actually take the photo. I'm probably overthinking this thing that's not supposed to actually make sense and may or may not be real, because any of these people could be lying, but the fact that they have overlapping stories involving their powers makes me think that their powers themselves must be real at that point, but it still raises questions as to how a camera works in that system, but probably just not supposed to question that. Bryce said she took the girl in Dekker's basement to the police station. Has anyone else been to a police station, I wonder? Oops. Bryce? Police.
Don't know.
Police station.
No.
You took the girl to the police station.
I don't know.
Evidence.
That means nothing to me.
Evidence on Dekker. What am I missing here?
I removed the chains, dressed her, and sat her in the police station. There's no evidence, though. No evidence of what he'd done. But she was free. I saved her. I'm not evil. I destroyed evil.
Let's ask about evil, then.
I believe that Dr. Dekker was a truly evil man, and so should you. I know you record these sessions, Doctor. I'm not going to be filmed saying I wanted him dead. But I did, and so should you. And Doctor, if I wanted to kill anyone, I'd do it in the midnight hour, wouldn't I? And when was Dekker murdered?
I'm not going to be filmed saying that I would kill him, but I'm not going to be filmed saying that I wanted him dead, but I did, and so should you. It's like, what? That's... You basically just said you wanted him dead. You just phrased it in a slightly long roundabout way that still says that. It does make sense he would kill him during the midnight hour, but if you can convince people the midnight hour is real, then killing him outside of the midnight hour is a decent alibi. But at the same time, killing him during the midnight hour would be significantly safer with a higher chance of success, because a failed murder could then blow up in your face really, really badly. Let's ask about the paper spike.
Dr. Dekker frequently used that paper spike on his desk as an example. I'm sure he did it with the other patients too. He'd make me look at it, touch the point to see how sharp it was. He'd tell me that because I think it's sharp, it will hurt me. But if I thought it was nothing, it could pass right through my hand.
That's terrifying. If you think it's nothing, it'll pass through your hand. Is that because it'll be a ghost, or because it literally will stab through your hand because it's sharp? It's concerning. Pass through your hand.
In the last couple of sessions I had with him, he put the spike through his hand. He'd be grinning at me while he was doing it. No blood, no nothing. He tried to make me do the same, but I wouldn't.
Who is the magician that's almost like some sort of weird fraud? Is it Chris? It's not Chris Angel, is it? No, there's some magician that's like the pain magician or something. He mostly does really brutal tricks. And it seems like the trick for some of his tricks might be that he literally just does the thing for real. And one of his tricks is he sticks a needle all the way through his hand. And if you have a sharp enough needle and you stick it through a specific part of your hand all the way through, it apparently doesn't cause like blood to really leak out. And if he does it, and especially if he has like an established location that he does it in, and I don't remember what it was, but somebody was like confirming that maybe he just actually does it and he just ignores the pain, and that's what the trick is he's just acting like the idea is that the idea of the trick is instead that you think it's a trick, that he's not actually stabbing his hand, but he just actually is. What if Dekker's just actually stabbing his hand and he doesn't feel anything about it? Concerning. Well, we're learning messed up things about the paper spike at the very least. Dekker's kind of an all-around scumlord. So look, let's see. Did I ever actually ask how are you today? Yeah, I did. Okay, so let's ask about smuggling bodies.
I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about, Doctor. I saw Claire Castleford's husband in the coffin myself before carrying him to the grave. He is in the ground. I'm sure it wouldn't take much for the police to get an order to have him exhumed. Just make sure it's done on Tuesday morning when I'm off.
Interesting. He denies the body. He claims that it is absolutely buried. And frankly, Claire doesn't seem entirely trustworthy anyway, so it's not unreasonable to think that maybe she is lying about the whole part where they smuggled it off. It could be that her husband is not at the lake house, and that she's just imagining her husband at the lake house, and maybe her husband really is buried, and she just imagined the hypothetical concept of smuggling him out, and then reviving him, and then having him be alive at the lake house, but having that not quite work out, and him being crazy, and not being able to go back to society because he's a decayed person. It could all be on her. I think they put "in the ground" in quotes to make it very clear that that's what I'm supposed to actually say, so I can get the outcome I'm going for. In the ground.
Well, that's what he would say, isn't it?
Thanks. What great feedback. I don't think that's going to go anywhere from there. I could try, but I doubt it. Well, that's what he would say, isn't it? It's not going to do anything.
I've nothing interesting to say about that.
Didn't think so. Worth a shot. Maybe not worth a shot, but I tried it anyway. Anything else I can do with the girl in the basement?
I removed the chains, dressed her, and sat her in the police station.
You said destroyed evil. Dressed the girl.
No.
Who was the girl?
Don't know.
Probably accurate, but that was your generic response as opposed to actually saying you don't know to the question.
I'd been feeling uneasy with Dr. Dekker for some time. I mentioned how he'd changed before, so I began spying on him at home. One night, the basement door was open, and Dekker was returning upstairs. I skipped past him, and there she was, a girl. It was difficult to tell, it was dark, and she was chained.
And tried the girl just on its own?
I don't know.
Let's see. Girl in the basement. Let's try it without the word chained. Nope. Basement. Oh yeah, we did do both versions then. Okay. Where can I go from here then? Because we're not done with you. But I don't even have a double asterisk thing to ask about. How do you feel?
No.
Just looping again. Alright. Did you bury David Castleford? Slightly confusing because we already asked about this.
I'm actually a classically trained pallbearer. There are a lot of health and safety considerations. Not everybody can do it. Well, properly at least. Occasionally I step in if the funeral director is short-shouldered. I do remember her face. She wasn't upset in the usual way. She seemed agitated. Her husband must have been a giant. The coffin was so heavy. I remember because aft port side sprained his ankle. That and he wasn't lifting correctly.
So that must be what a pallbearer is what they call the people who actually... the line of people who carry a coffin to a grave. I've seen that. Curious about that. So, David must have been a giant?
That means nothing to me.
Claire was agitated.
I don't know what you're getting at.
Agitated.
Is that supposed to...
Nope. That in there too. We got it correctly though. Sprained ankle.
I've nothing in...
I just tried a few different angles there. Okay, so he not only is a pallbearer, but he's kind of elitist about being a pallbearer, which is kind of amusing. So her story correlates with what his story goes as far as them being there and experiencing it all together, but they diverge on the issue of whether or not the person was apparently smuggled out, which is fitting enough. It is a place to diverge. Maybe I should just ask about the pallbearer role. Nope. What am I missing here then?
I'm actually a classically trained pallbearer. There are a lot of health and safety considerations. Not everybody can do it. Well, properly at least. Occasionally I step in if the funeral director is short-shouldered. I do remember her face. She wasn't upset in the usual way. She seemed agitated. Her husband must have been a giant. The coffin was so heavy. I remember because aft port side sprained his ankle. That and he wasn't lifting correctly.
How do you lift correctly?
In simple terms...
No, we're dead ending there. That's fine. We got the answers to all the questions we were actually going for at the time. Let's see. Let's go for Professor Warwick, because I'm curious about him being here at all. How... Oops. Can't type anything here. How are... Damn it. You.
You remind me of Dr. Dekker. He always used to ask me questions I didn't know the answer to.
Alright, then let's ask about Doctor Dekker.
I don't really know what you're getting at.
What brings you here today, fine blue sir?
I'm not aware of that.
Bip bitty boppity boo. Alright, paper spike it is then.
Is he really? Actually dead? Not a worthy adversary after all, then.
Well, this guy seems like a prick. So he comes, not a worthy adversary after all, then? Like, he's just bragging about him being dead, basically. Also, how in the world is there a character in this game that can't respond to the phrase Doctor Dekker and lead to dialogue? That's bizarre. Alright, so worthy adversary.
Dr. Dekker challenged me. He tried to use my theories against me. Quantum theories.
I have to pull this shit out of you guys like it's teeth. Okay, quantum theories. You guys are allowed to say more than one sentence in a row if you want.
Do you really want to know? Dekker's eyes used to glaze over whenever we talked about that. He didn't believe in quantum physics. As if it's something that you can optionally believe in. Well, it started with an experiment. Have you heard of quantum suicide, Doctor?
Well, that got interesting fast. What, like Schrodinger's dead cat and like suicide? Like, what in the world? Somebody commits suicide and is both alive and dead, or as two copies, or the idea where like they kill themselves, but like you don't know whether they succeed until you observe it or something like that, and then observing changes the state, or what?
Maybe if you ask me that in a parallel universe, I actually know the answer.
Did I spell it incorrectly? Quantum suicide.
Perhaps ask me,
Yeah, no.
No,
Am I spelling it wrong?
Have you heard of quantum suicide, Doctor?
No, kind sir. I have not previously encountered utterances of the concept of quantum suicide. I guess they don't write about that one and post it on Twitter.
Quantum suicide is a thought experiment that tries to explain the many worlds theory. You're looking at me blankly. I can see that you don't understand. I knew you wouldn't. Alternate universes. Essentially, if I were to shoot myself, then in some alternate universe, I'd still be alive. Now imagine if I could actually choose that universe. I'm taking a product off a supermarket shelf. Well, I simply applied that logic to something different.
Have you considered the idea that maybe people don't understand what you say because you are bad at explaining things? Like, I have said 3 words. No, I knew you wouldn't understand. I'm really full of myself and a terrible human being at holding conversation. Alright. Alternate universes. It was literally everything you said was easy to follow, by the way.
Are you sure that question?
Now I get to play the next game of how do I phrase things with this guy that I already hate talking to because, oh my god, he is so weirdly difficult compared to everyone else for, like, no reason.
Quantum suicide is a thought experiment that tries to explain the many worlds theory. You're looking at me blankly. I can see that you don't understand. I knew you wouldn't. Alternate universes. Essentially, if I were to shoot myself, then in some alternate universe, I'd still be alive. Now imagine if I could actually choose that universe. I'm taking a product off a supermarket shelf. Well, I simply applied that logic to something different.
Something different.
Gambling. I set up an experiment whereby I would visit a casino and place a very large bet at a roulette table. Now, I would always bet on odd. Now, the results of this particular experiment were mundane. I won as many times as you would expect according to the laws of probability, but then I changed a parameter.
Changed a parameter.
Quantum suicide required a loss of life to make it a realistic thought experiment. So I simply upped the stakes. Every time I bet on odd, I would place everything I had on that one spin of the wheel, and it worked. Well, for a while.
You have a gambling problem. Please seek help. Your family misses you.
Why not gambling? My wife Vanessa left me for a neurosurgeon. Do you know, she emptied our entire combined wealth into her barrister's wallet. I needed more money. Physics provided me with a solution.
Money solution.
Nope.
Money
Maybe if you asked me that.
solution.
Nope.
I don't like you. I don't like you, and I want you to go away so I can go back to all the other guests that were less actively abrasive and irritating as you, Mr. Elitist Man. Where'd your glasses come from? You're not normally... Oh, there they are. Are you just always holding them? Glasses are for wearing, Mr. Oh, look at me, I'm so bored and pissy. Hey, I don't like your face.
Quantum suicide required a loss of life to make it a realistic thought experiment. So I simply upped the stakes. Every time I bet on odd, I would place everything I had on that one spin of the wheel, and it worked. Well, for a while.
For a while.
Dr. Dekker killed it, and I can't get it back.
Alright then, humor me. How did Doctor Dekker kill it? For someone who seems to really like listening to himself talk, you're not one for ranting for more than one sentence at a time sometimes.
Well, my theory, quantum gambling. If the stakes are high enough, you will win every time by simply shifting your consciousness into that branch that wins. It's tricky, but it can be done. Dr. Dekker didn't like that. He saw me becoming rich and powerful, and he hated that. That's why he proffered the hangman's paradox.
I mean, if you're always shipping yourself into a universe where you win at the gamble that you're all in on and losing all your money on, doesn't that mean that you're just leaving behind one reality and going into another reality where you win, and that means another copy of you has to deal with the consequences of your loss every single time that you bet all of your money on a loss over and over and over again, until like it becomes like Bruce Lee's the one and only like one person, or is it Jet Li? That was Jet Li, wasn't it? I don't remember. And there's one guy who is the only person who benefits from the good version. Hangman's paradox.
Well, imagine a judge sentences you to death. Now, it will be Monday or Tuesday next week, but it will be a surprise. Well, which day do you think you'll be executed?
Well, if it's going to be a surprise, then you're probably going to get executed on Sunday. You will be executed on Sunday. It's a surprise because it's the day before either of those days.
No,
Okay, fine. When? Monday.
Well, Monday does seem likely, yes. Because if you're still alive on Monday at midnight, then Tuesday won't be a surprise. But if you're sure that it's Monday, then that won't be a surprise either, will it? Dekker tricked me.
What are you, like one of those robots where like you're given a logic paradox and you break? Dekker tricked you.
He told me that sometime in the future I would lose a bet, that I would lose all of my money. Now this didn't seem likely because I had quantum gambling on my side and it was working. But he unnerved me. He made me doubt myself. And then it happened. Recently, I lost everything that I'd managed to build up since Vanessa left me.
So you lost everything. Not much of an adversary, is he, except for the part where he made me lose everything. I kind of skipped over that detail when I was complimenting myself.
Well, my theory, quantum gambling. If the stakes are high enough, you will win every time by simply shifting your consciousness into that branch that wins. It's tricky, but it can be done. Dr. Dekker didn't like that. He saw me becoming rich and powerful, and he hated that. That's why he proffered the hangman's paradox. Becoming
rich.
I don't know.
Alright. I missed the detail there a little bit. What else could I ask about there? Choose the universe was an older phrase.
Are you sure?
Alright, let's poke around a little more.
Why not gambling? My wife Vanessa left me for a neurosurgeon. Do you know, she emptied our entire combined wealth into her barrister's wallet. I needed more money. Physics provided me with a solution.
Alright then, let's ask about Vanessa. I don't think I've asked her by name yet.
We were married for 14 years, 7 months and 3 days. Vanessa couldn't have children, at least that's what she told me. She grounded me in reality. I'm not complaining. It's probably what I needed. But part of me always thought that one day I'd achieve immortality through science and we'd be... It wasn't to be, though.
I'm sorry, you just said immortality through science?
Do you know, you remind me of Doctor Dekker. He always used to ask me questions.
Immortality.
I don't
Really, you don't know what I'm getting at. The thing you just said seems like a noteworthy thing to follow on. Alright, grounded you in reality.
perhaps ask me.
You son of a bitch. Alright.
We were married for 14 years, 7 months and 3 days. Vanessa couldn't have children, at least that's what she told me. She grounded me in reality. I'm not complaining. It's probably what I needed. But part of me always thought that one day I'd achieve immortality through science and we'd be... It wasn't to be, though.
I'm missing something here. Oh, yeah. Who do you work for?
Well, the Ministry of Defense, of course. Guns aren't going to win the next war. Quantum physics is.
Excuse me? Alright, let's ask about the military then.
Nope.
The next war.
No,
I think that was just dead end. I think they introduced me to a complete dead end. Thanks, hint system. That went literally nowhere, didn't it? Alright, I need to figure out what to do with Vanessa here.
We were married for 14 years, 7 months and 3 days. Vanessa
couldn't have children.
Well, yes, it bothered me, especially now that I find out that she's pregnant. Oh, no, it wasn't a rocket scientist that was required, but a brain surgeon, it seems. I have considered putting that neurosurgeon onto his darkest timeline. But I'm not a killer, it would seem.
He's so immediately blatant about his power in a way that nobody else quite was, isn't he? Darkest timeline? Interestingly, the note thing seems to suggest there's nothing else to ask, but surely I'd want to ask about that.
Perhaps ask me.
He keeps raising concepts, and then I can't ask him about the concept because it just dead ends, apparently. That's so bizarre how these topics keep dead ending, and he keeps... Like, he just did the equivalent of, like, if Bryce name-dropped the... like, his extra hour, and then I couldn't ask him about it.
Well, my theory, quantum gambling. If the stakes are high enough, you will win every time by simply shifting your consciousness into that branch that wins. It's tricky, but it can be done. Dr. Dekker didn't like that. He saw me becoming rich and powerful.
So Dekker hated that.
Honestly? Well, I think he feared quantum physics. He didn't like things being explained in terms of science. Almost as if he'd have preferred chaos.
maybe what you had was some kind of affront to what he was going for, or something like that. Curious. Let's see. Shifting consciousness. Oh, that's a dead end too. Well, I'm kind of happy to move on from you forever, so thanks you. Thanks for coming in. I'm going to leave now. Might want to talk to Jaya, see if she raises any issues related to everybody else that I can ask to them, and then also I can bounce back to her if I have another question that needs to be answered about anyone else in particular. Let's see. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm ready for my grief counselling. I emailed you Mariana's address. I don't know why you'd want it. I suppose you're going to start doing home visits now, like Dr. Dekker?
Dekker did home visits?
I think you'll find there's more than one question there.
Home visits.
Yes, Dr. Dekker started doing home visits for Mariana. He said she couldn't concentrate properly in his office. I hope you're not thinking of doing the same thing. I need you right where I can see you.
Or something might happen. Wouldn't that be spooky? You'll ask Mariana about the Dekker's home visits. You know what? We just started on this. Let's just go to Mariana then. That's enough reason to go there before I forget. So, how are you?
I'm okay. Thanks for asking. It's rent day, and I always feel a little blue on rent day.
Inquisitive, full screen, intrusive achievement. Goodbye. Rent day, you say?
Rent day is the day I pay rent to my landlady.
Landlady?
I pay my rent to a landlady. I don't own my own place, I'm just passing through.
Passing through.
I never stay in one town very long. I get bored too easily. Once you've seen the same faces over and over again, you move. Like I said before, I like to move around a lot.
Just really, it becomes self-parody sometimes when they ask a question and then you immediately just like, I'll just repeat the last word you said, and they're continuing, aha. Let's see. Just passing through. Nope, right, that's what we said before. I already asked that. That's fine. We're asking Mariana about what Dekker visiting there? Yeah. Let's ask about Dekker's home visits.
Dr. Dekker suggested home visits. I think he was probably checking up on his investment. You're not thinking of doing home visits, are you, Doctor?
No.
Try again?
No home visits.
That's good. I'm not sure I can afford any more of your time.
She straight up has an octopus pendant, which is curious, because now we're suggesting more of those ideas. Can I ask Bryce? What was it? No, he said he found a queen, right? Yeah, he thought he found a chess piece. Never mind. I had a thought, like, what if, was it Ellen? Yeah. Oh, the necklace is gone. I can see why, because if you told her to get rid of the necklace, or the pendant, they'd have to film all of her scenes twice, with and without the pendant, basically, so removing it is the only thing that makes sense if you're gonna do this in a sane fashion. Assuming she does even listen to you in the first place. I was curious, I was thinking about, like, what if, like, the thing they found at the, what if the item they found at the dig site got passed on to Ellen eventually? Like, that'd be a weird chain of events, especially since they seem to be insisting on the idea that some of these stories can overlap in various ways. See, what happened in these home visits? How can I follow up on this one?
Dr. Dekker suggested home visits. I think he was probably checking up on his investment. You're not thinking of doing home visits.
Checking up on his investment.
Aren't we all your investments, Doctor? All the time, all the energy you've invested in us? Seeing how we're doing, making sure we're growing correctly?
Well, you didn't have to make it feel weirdly creepy. Growing correctly? The powers?
He called it aversion therapy. Whenever I felt the urge to go to the sea, he would do something unpleasant.
Well, that's concerning. Aversion therapy. Was he doing something illegal and abusive?
I don't know what you'd call it, but it was unpleasant for me.